Hey, so this is Ivan Hardcastle at Castle Therapy. I had a thought today. I got done with a client. One of the things that I work with is pediatric incontinence, and understanding our body and how it works is really important. So I wanted to show you some of the things that I do in therapy with some of my clients to help them understand the body. There's a lot of colors on here. Usually when I'm doing this, I draw this a piece at a time, but let me just talk through how our body works in really simple terms so that we can understand why some of our children are having accidents, pee or poo, and what we can do about it. So this is my really basic body. Okay, up here you can see this is a head, we have the body, and I always start by drawing like, okay, so the kiddo I was working with today had a ponytail, and then I joke that, okay, this is who you are. And of course they look at me like I'm absolutely insane. But we talk about, well, what sorts of food do you like to eat? This kid likes corn dogs, and we have some broccoli, we've got some spaghetti, we had some oranges here. And I always talk about, well, what do you like to drink? And we talked about water today. Sometimes it's other things, but I always try to get them to talk about water because that's going to be really important for our bodies. All of it goes inside of our mouth. Our mouth is part of our digestive tract. It is part of what makes pee and poo. This is where the food comes in. These nice chompy teeth, chomp, 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 chomp. The food gets taken into little tiny bits, and you can see the water is in here too, and it goes down the throat. I always teach the kids the terms of what is going on with their body so that I have them say throat, I have them say stomach. We talk about stomach acid and taking these big chunks of food that are teeth chopped up, and it turns it into these tiny pieces. Next, it goes into the squiggles. We know that as the small intestine. I say you can call it the small intestine. I like to call it the squiggles. This is where the good particles that our body wants us to grow with, the protein, the vitamins, the minerals, all that good stuff from the food gets taken and given to our body. The rest of it, you can see this blue, most of the water still is in there, and it goes into the large intestine or the colon, or I like to call it the poo maker because it makes poo, okay? And I get the kid to say poo. I wanted you to say poo as well because this is part of our body, and it's really important for us to understand what's going on inside of our bodies. It starts over here on our right side, goes up to our rib cage, right below our rib cage, all the way actually over to our side, down to just inside the hip bone, to just below the navel, and then actually tips backwards, which makes sense for the colon or the poo maker because we poo out the back, we pee out the front. I didn't draw the bladder on here, that's a different system, but the water, as this is leftover food that our body did not want, did not get absorbed in the small intestine, is that leftover food plus water. I call it sloppy slop. And as it goes through the poo maker, water gets taken back up to our body. And we can see this kiddo we were talking about, these chunks here, they have some constipation. They have some hardened poo that's sitting in there that's making it hard for them to function, to be healthy. And what can happen is that these sections will actually stop water being able to be given to our body. And so sometimes we'll have new sloppy slop come through, and so our child might be constipated, but they're still having loose stool, they're still having this really soft poo, but it's not good. Things aren't passing through. One of the things that you can see to see how well you are processing food is to eat some corn. Corn's really easy to see as it comes through because our body doesn't digest it well. And so we'll have yellow bits go all the way through, and you can actually see that in your poo. And you can eat it at dinner time and say, hey, it's Tuesday at 6 o'clock, I'm gonna eat this. How long is it gonna take for it to go through my body? And you can actually see how healthy your colon is. You should be able to see it within 24 hours. Shorter is fantastic as long as it's not too quick. Too quick is also problematic, but within 24 hours. They say, hey, average American is having a poo every 2 days or so. Average doesn't mean great. It's fantastic if you can poop at least one time a day and see that process through. Over here, I have a blow up section of the poo maker, the colon, lots of colors over here. Again, I was drawing these one at a time. I just wanted to show you what I was doing. The green, just like over here, is the outside of the poo maker. These orange dried clumps of stool are blocking things up. And we had this blue wrap through. This is the new stool coming through, making it look like really loose stool, but we have hardened stool. We can actually feel that through the abdominal wall if you're trained to do so. If you get a therapist who's trained in pelvic floor health, they can do that for you, and to see how are things moving. And then we're talking about some medicines that will actually help create a channel, but the challenge of there's a difference between poo being able to slip through with a channel and actually clearing out all the hardness. And so you might still have poor water uptake, you might still have poor gut health, you might still have incontinence. Now, what I don't have drawn on here is the bladder. But let me just tell you that the bladder sits right here in front. This is, pardon my photography with this. This is just me holding my camera. I don't have a lot of equipment. I'm just getting started, but I want to be able to teach you. Your bladder sits right here, and if you have hard, big chunks of stool sitting there pressing on that soft bladder, your bladder talks to your brain through pressure, and so does your rectum, so does the end of the poo maker. It says, hey, I need to go to the bathroom by pressure. But if we have hard stool in there and it's pressing on the bladder the whole time, your bladder gets used to it, and your brain says, oh, you say that you have pressure all the time. I'm not going to pay attention to you anymore. And that's where a lot of incontinence occurs. We no longer are able to feel the pressure from the bladder, so then we have leaks and the child is not even aware of it. But about 80% of the time when we have a child with incontinence issues, past where they should have been potty trained for, we can trace it back to hardened stool, we can trace it back to constipation. Most of the time, it's because we are not drinking enough water, we're not putting enough fluids in there to keep things soft. And when that happens continually, the muscles at the pelvic floor that control the response being able to poo, the response being able to pee, those become weak and then they stop responding, and that's really when therapy comes in. So if you have a child who has concerns with having frequent wetting accidents, they're past where they should have been potty trained, maybe they did potty trained and then they regressed, take a look at this, consider, well, how much water are we really drinking? Is the urine a light yellow? We don't really want a solid or a dark yellow at all. Clear, you can go with clear, but it doesn't need to be clear. If it's clear all the time, there might be some other worries. You might be drinking too much water. We do want a little bit of yellow in there. And then what is their poo like? Are they pooping every day? Is it soft? Is it formed? Or is it painful? Do they have to push? Are there other things going on? Check out the water. That's the most common reason.